like to welcome all of you to the 6th of 9 days that the Senate is traveling across the state as part of our Commonwealth conversations. It's an opportunity for us to visit districts. Some we may never have visited before. Others we may have visited, but we get to see and talk with people and visit institutions and points of interest across the Commonwealth, with the idea that by traveling the Commonwealth together, we have the opportunity to see and experience and discuss things often from different perspectives than we might from the regions in which we normally travel. That is, those closest to our own districts and our own homes. And so today we were in Western Massachusetts. We had more than half of the state Senate at different points during this day. And we were at 4 other events, including a transportation visioning session in Springfield, which is a common event that we're doing on all 9 days. So it's a facilitated discussion. We're doing this in cooperation with the Bar Foundation of Boston, and the concept is that we are beginning a planning process statewide for creating a 21st century vision of transportation, so that we know not only the projects that people think need to be done in the district, but also have a discussion about values and perceptions and ideas beyond just specific projects. So we have quite a number of members of the Senate with us at this time, so I'm going to introduce them, starting at the far left, unusually seated at the left, will be Senator Humison of Westfield, and then is Senator Barrett of Lexington, and then Senator McGee of Lynn, and Senator Lewis of Winchester, and is there Senator Keenan, you're next? Senator Keenan of Quincy, and then Senator Lesser of Long Meadow, and Senator Jamie Eldridge of Acton, Senator Michael Rodericks of Westport, and he was the originator of the concept of doing Commonwealth conversations 2 years ago. We should go out and listen to the people, and as you would expect, I turned to him and said, "Good, you lead us." And he did a wonderful job last term, and he's doing a great job again this term. Co-chairing this with us is Senator Bruce Tarr, the minority leader from Gloucester. And he's right here. And next to him is Adam Hines, newly elected senator from Berkshire County, Pittsfield. And then Senator Pat Jalen from Somerville, Senator Sonia Chang Diaz of Boston, Senator Sear of the Cape of the Islands, Truro to be specific, and Senator Boncory from Suffolk County, from Boston. So as you see, you have the whole state represented here, from the north to the south, the east and west. And we're here this evening to hear your thoughts. And in a few minutes, Senator Rodericks is going to tell you the rules of the road. But I want to finish my comments by telling you this is not window dressing. We're very committed in the Senate to transparency and civic engagement. And this is one of our efforts to engage the public. The information we gather tonight will be combined with the information we gather from all of the other events that we do, that is the other 8 Commonwealth Conversation stops. And that information will be used to help the Senate set its agenda. And then through an internal process, the issues and the ideas that you bring to us tonight will go through a vetting process. And as bills come out of committees, legislative committees, we will then schedule them for debate. If you want to see the proof of the pudding, I invite you to go to the legislative website and go to the Senate page and then go to Commonwealth Conversations and then open the report we wrote last term after we completed our tour, and then go to the 2015-16 report and see what we actually voted on, some of which got into law and some of which didn't, but you can see how the comments and the work that was done throughout the state by you, the citizenry, to communicate with us about your priorities and your concerns got turned into legislation, got turned into priorities, and some got turned into law. Others didn't make it all the way through, but it doesn't mean that we didn't take it seriously and debate the issues and pass legislation and send it over to the House of Representatives. So we're glad that you all turned out tonight, and I'm now going to introduce the minority leader, who is one of the three co-chairs of this activity, Senator Bruce Tarr, who will offer a few comments as well.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Good evening. I want to begin by offering a series of thank yous, and the very first goes to everyone here at the University of Massachusetts for the extraordinary experience that we have had in coming here and in feeling so welcome, and also in being reminded of just how important public higher education is in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to everyone in it. To a person, the people that sit in front of you have been extremely supportive of the University of Massachusetts and public higher education. And of course, there is no more strenuous champion than our Senate President, and we are fortunate to have his leadership in that respect. But for all of us, no matter how frequently we may come here, and for some of us that are from parts of Massachusetts that are a little further away, it is always inspiring to see the first-rate educational experience that we offer people here at the University of Massachusetts, and it's always rewarding to see where our public investment is going in terms of a very, very bright and prosperous future. I also want to say thank you to Mike Rodrigues, Senator Rodrigues, for conceiving of this idea of the Commonwealth Conversations. I'm very, very proud to chair it along with the Senate President and Senator Rodrigues, because what we're doing here tonight is the most fundamental aspect of democracy, and that is those that stand in representative capacity, listening to those who they represent. And while that may seem like something that is obvious, we can never be reminded of it enough. And Senator Rodrigues reminded of us that it was important for us to do it in this format, and I'm very pleased that he did that and want to thank him. I also want to say thanks to the legislative delegation from this part of the state, because part of Commonwealth Conversations is not only this public forum, but it is senators bringing their colleagues to things that are important and special in their region. And that is often an eye-opening experience, and it allows us to see and learn about things that we might not otherwise see and learn about, so that when we return to the Senate chamber, which is a great crucible of debate, we all understand what others are talking about from first-hand experience. So congratulations to the legislative delegation from the region. They've done a wonderful job in bringing folks around today to see some very important elements of what's happening here in Western Massachusetts. I also want to say thank you to all of you, because we know that it is important in this democracy to have civic engagement and to have people come out and not let decisions be made by default, but cause decisions to be made by proaction and engagement and responsible and reasonable discussion. So thank you to all of you. We know from other listening sessions that we've done that sometimes it isn't easy to come to that microphone and look at this very intimidating group, but we know that sometimes you're going to tell us at that microphone about a difficulty you've had in your life, or about a challenging situation that you faced, or about something that really concerns you and keeps you awake at night. That isn't always easy to do. So we appreciate, and I will express our appreciation in advance for your candor, for your forthrightness, and for your willingness to come out and talk to us tonight. Lastly, I just want to suggest to you that the most important reason that we come tonight is to listen. And there is another reason. And that reason is because we pride ourselves in the way that our state Senate operates. We operate in a bipartisan way that is respectful, it is productive, we have responsible and meaningful debates, and we come to you, and we're traveling throughout the state to show that model of leadership in the hopes that others within the state and outside of it will learn from our example and hopefully follow our example. So, you are about to see something that is the rarest of things on this earth. And that is to see this many senators who are following some remarks by Chairman Roberts. You're about to see senators sit and say absolutely nothing. Cherish that. It doesn't happen often, but it testifies to the importance that we place on hearing from you, that we will all show the greatest of restraint and spend this time very valuably listening to all of you. Thank you for providing us with that opportunity. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to see you all here with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Good evening, everyone. It is wonderful to be back here at UMass Amherst. Although I'm an alum of another UMass campus in Dartmouth, both my children are alums from the Amherst campus, and it's been a few years since I've been on campus, and it looks great. Fantastic. Congratulations to all of you. As was said earlier, all of us, are very, very proud of the public higher education opportunities here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at any of the UMass campuses, at our state universities, at our community colleges, and it's wonderful to be back here. So a few of the ground rules tonight. There are sign-up sheets. We ask anyone wishing to testify to please sign in so we can put you on our database so that we email you the results of the report and keep you up to date on what we've found out throughout this 9 regional tour of the Commonwealth. We are here to listen. As the minority leader said, we will not engage in any debate. We will not respond to any concerns that you raise, but we're here to listen. We ask, out of respect for everyone's time, that all your testimony be limited to 2 minutes. We do have a timekeeper. DJ was at the corner. He's multitasking, as he does, but DJ will, you'll hear an audible tone when your 2 minutes is up, and we ask that you respect that tone and you relinquish the microphone for the next individual wishing to testify. And once again, out of respect, we ask that your comments not be personal in nature, that you address your comments to the panel as a whole and not address your comments to any individual particular legislator. We want to hear from you. You can tweet us, and I was already informed that we're already trending, whatever that means. We're trending already before the session has even begun. But the hashtag is WestMA Convos, WESTMA Convos. And so please tweet, because we do want to hear from you. Also, you can visit our website at malegislature.gov/cc. There is a survey on there, and towards the end of the evening, before we conclude, we'll give you the results to that time, the results of the survey that all of you are participating in. You will see senators on devices. We are not, as the Senate President said, playing words with friends or texting our colleagues, but we are taking notes because this is, what you have to say is very, very important to us, and we want to make sure we capture it in the moment. So for all of you, we thank you for being here, and we're going to begin with the Senate President chairing this forum and calling our first speakers. Mr. President?
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call 2 names to begin with, and we'll always have someone up at back. So if you would please line up behind the person who is speaking so that you can take the microphone as quickly as possible so we can keep it moving forward and make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. So Jennifer Summers will begin and be followed by G. Scranton or Bo Scranton. I'm not sure how we pronounce that. Oh, maybe it's Ben. Yes, I think it's maybe Ben. Okay. You're on.
My name is Jennifer Summers, and I am the Western Regional Manager for the Brain Injury Association of Massachusetts. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony on behalf of the citizens in this area of the state who has sustained a brain injury. Most people don't really understand brain injury or its prevalence. There are more than 67,000 Massachusetts residents that sustain a traumatic brain injury each year. The Brain Injury Association of Massachusetts strongly advocates for the statewide head injury program known as SHIP. This is an agency under the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. SHIP has gained a national reputation, and the program is considered a national model. I am proud to say that it was created in the mid-1980s out of the Brain Injury Association of Massachusetts efforts and with the support of the administration and the legislature. Currently, SHIP is operating under considerable strain and cannot meet the needs of brain injury survivors. This year, we are advocating for three things. First, a $2 million increase over last year's budget to fund SHIP. This additional funding would establish a care navigation program, which is a community outreach program to assist individuals with brain injury after hospital discharge. In the packet, you will find a sheet showing the number of individuals in your district who are receiving SHIP services and the number of survivors who have applied but are still waiting. We are also advocating for two bills: improving lives by ensuring access to brain injury treatment, cognitive rehabilitation bill. This bill will ensure that commercial health insurance plans include cognitive rehabilitation services related to treatment for brain injuries. Benefits of the bill come at no cost to the state. We are also hoping to reestablish the Brain Injury Commission to review data concerning the epidemiology of brain injury and the needs of individuals by brain injury and their families in the Commonwealth. Thank you for your time and your attention to the needs of those who have suffered a brain injury. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You set a great example by finishing just on time. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Ben, and then Rick Sawicki will follow.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming out to Western Massachusetts to see us and giving us the opportunity to speak. My name is Ben Scranton. I'm the CEO for the Realtor Association of Pioneer Valley. And on behalf of the 23,000 realtors across the state, I would like you to consider supporting a bill that the Massachusetts Association of Realtors supports. It's Senate Bill 1568, an act relative to discharge of indebtedness of principal residents from gross income. This bill was filed by Senator Mark Montagna. The bill would mirror the federal law, and that's the Mortgage Debt Relief Act of 2007. It would allow homeowners who complete loan modifications, short sales, and foreclosures to be held harmless from tax liability on forgiven debt. Under current state law, the amount forgiven is treated as taxable income. For example, a family purchased their home for $300,000 with a mortgage of $275,000. Later, they need to sell that home, but home values in their area have declined, and they can sell for only $225,000. At the time of the sale, the outstanding balance on their mortgage is $250,000, not leaving near enough cash at settlement to repay the lender the full balance. If the lender forgives the entire difference between the amount owed and the sales price, the debt forgiven would be $25,000. But under current Massachusetts law, the amount of forgiven mortgage debt is treated as income and taxed at ordinary income rates. Thus, the seller who experienced a true economic loss is required to pay tax on phantom income, even though no cash has changed hands and he or she experienced a loss. Under this proposal, the forgiven amount is not subject to income tax. If this amendment is not enacted, homeowners will continue to pay income tax on phantom income on their state tax returns. Homeowners should not be forced to pay tax on money that they have already lost with cash that they never received and never will receive. Again, we thank you for the opportunity, and the Massachusetts Association of Realtors looks forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Rick Sawicki, you're up, and followed by Kareem.
Again, otherwise, thank you for the opportunity for coming this evening. My name is Rick Sawicki. I'm a realtor with Sawicki Real Estate in Amherst, and I'm the president of the Real Estate Association of RAPP. Excuse me. On behalf of 23,000 realtors across the state, I would like to voice our concerns regarding affordability of housing in Massachusetts in providing ways that we can begin to address this problem. First is by supporting an act of improving housing opportunities in Massachusetts economy. Due to the short supply of housing, potential homeowners continue to face ever-increasing housing costs. One of the issues driving the reduced housing stock is the barriers to production. Many of these can be found in our zoning laws. The Massachusetts Association of Realtors, in conjunction with the Greater Boston Association of Realtors, support Bill number S94, filed by Senator Rodriguez, which addresses some of the barriers. Some of these provisions include allowing multifamily housing constructed by right, allowing accessory dwellings units by right, easing the production of cluster development housing, simplifying the dimensional variances and burdens, and improving special permits by majority vote. Zoning is too often used to prevent the production of new houses. Another approach is the first-time home buyer savings account, a program filed by Senator Sears. Raising costs of housing and crippling student loan debt are impacting our younger generation in their housing choices. Saving for a down payment and closing costs is very challenging. This program would allow future home buyers to deposit $5,000 per year in a first-time home buyer savings account and then claim that contribution as a deduction for their income tax. According to research from the National Association of Realtors, when a home is bought by a consumer, they spend an average of $4,500 on furniture, appliances, remodeling. In addition, the effect to the community for their expenditures of sports games and charity events in Massachusetts, the effect is estimated at $16,000 per year. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Corrine, you're next, followed by Virginia Irvine.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Corrine Fitzgerald. I'm a resident of Northfield, and I'm a business owner with Fitzgerald Real Estate in Greenfield, Mass, and one of the past presidents of the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. Everything that Ben and Rick had said are very important issues to the 22,000 members of our association, but I can speak to you tonight specifically about the #1 issue that's facing Western Massachusetts and Central Massachusetts, and that is the lack of broadband access to homeowners and to business owners. As a practitioner, we are in the field every day, and we deal with homeowners and business owners that are in, at this point, I would have to say, a critical place. In 2007, when the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development put together the Broadband Act, it's been 10 years now since we had the $40 million to get this project done. And we still have 78 underserved communities. Can you imagine 78 towns that do not have complete access, and 40, mind you, that have no access? Okay, so it's to the point where people are in hardship. They can't sell their homes. They can't move. Kids can't get their schoolwork done. People can't get home health care. It's gotten to the point of catastrophic measures. We are encouraged, I will say that we are encouraged by where the Massachusetts Broadband Institute is going in the February 27th meeting. It looks like we're starting to see some movement in the professional services sector, where they're allowing more access to the towns for building out these projects. And today's news with the governor's office saying they're going to give $20 million for the last mile for being able to do that initiative still remains to be seen. One last thing I want to say is please support this. And I know there's a lot of people that do support this, and we would like to see some action in this area. Thank you very much.
And followed by Mark Breslin.
Hi, my name is Virginia Irvine, and I'm not a realtor, but I did just sell my home in Brimfield and moved to the wonderful community of Northampton. I am on the board of directors for Windwise, Massachusetts, which is a statewide organization made up of people that are advocating for homeowners and people who have been have had industrial wind turbines built near their homes, and it's causing health impacts to themselves, lowering property values, and hurting their pets. Windwise Massachusetts supports renewable projects. We just are opposed to poorly sited land-based turbines in Massachusetts. We have collected a lot of information from people who live near these turbines. Currently, there are 47 projects in Massachusetts that have land-based wind turbines, and that's 88 turbines. 23 of these locations have caused impacts to the residents that live near these turbines. The largest project is in the Berkshires. It's 28.5 megawatts. And it's owned by a Spanish energy company, Iberdrola. It only produces 18/100th of 1% of the electricity used in Massachusetts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark, you're up next, followed by Alice Swift.
Hi, my name is Mark Breslow. I want to speak to you tonight about carbon pollution pricing. During most of the Patrick administration, I was employed by the administration working on climate policy. As part of that, I was lead author of the state's Clean Energy and Climate Plan. In 2014, I co-authored a study for the state's Department of Energy Resources on analyzing how one might implement a carbon price in the state and what its impacts would be. I think in view of what the Trump administration has been doing in the last days and weeks, you can see the importance of this all too much. She's trying to roll back both power plant standards and standards for fuel efficiency of vehicles. It puts the onus on the states, including us as leaders in this area, at much higher. Under the state's mandates to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, you probably know we have to reduce emissions 25% by 2020 and 80% by 2050. By my calculations, we may or may not make the 2020 limit, and we have no idea how we're going to make the 2050 limit. There's virtually worldwide agreement among experts in climate policy that the most effective and cost-effective method of getting to the reductions that are needed is through putting a price on emissions of greenhouse gases, which primarily means carbon dioxide. That's being done in many places. It's virtually being done in every country in Europe. In Canada, several of the provinces already have carbon pricing in one fashion or another, and the new Trudeau administration is going to be mandating it for the whole country. China is gradually implementing it province by province, and here in the Northeast, we have the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which does it, but just for the electricity sector. And we've been very successful in that sector, but it's only 20% of emissions. So I urge you to pass carbon pollution pricing for the rest of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Swift is up, and then Mary Jo, M-A-F-F-E-I. Maffei.
I have two primary concerns. First is climate change. The carbon fee and dividend program is the most effective way to reduce our use of fossil fuels and would be good for the Western Massachusetts economy. The fee would be paid by out-of-state fuel suppliers and passed on in rising prices to residents who would likely reduce their use of fossil fuels as when energy prices have risen in the past. The income from this fee would be distributed fairly as a dividend to the residents of the state. This would help the state economy. For example, a $200 dividend would help lower income residents who use less fuel, more than wealthier ones with larger cars and houses. This means they would have more money to spend in the local economy and an improvement to their financial circumstances. There would be extra rebates for rural and high driving areas, which benefits Western Massachusetts. High-speed rail to Boston would also benefit riders in Western Massachusetts as well as create jobs. The amount of the fee should rise annually to an effective level while allowing businesses to adjust to the fee. I urge you to support Senator Barrett's bill S-1821 for carbon fee and dividend. The other concern is that our, quote, system of health insurance is not sustainable. With all the talk about the problems of the ACA, this is an ideal time to push for single payer. It would reduce costs dramatically and be fairer for everyone. Gone would be premiums, deductibles, co-pays, denials of coverage, and health insurance costs, including in auto and homeowners insurance. I urge the legislature to approve two bills, SB 619 for improved Medicare for all Massachusetts, and SB 610 for effective cost control. Too many people must pay large bills, even with insurance, and many go bankrupt for medical emergencies. The insurance companies create an unnecessary extra layer of non-medical expenses. It's time for single payer.
Mary Jo will be followed by David Danielson.
Hi, I'm here also to ask you to pass a pollution fee and rebate legislation. And I'm here to tell you why carbon pricing will be good for Massachusetts economy, especially Western Mass economy. First, currently energy jobs are out of state, for example in Saudi Arabia, Texas, or Montana. Carbon pricing will jumpstart renewable energy job creation in Massachusetts, with those jobs distributed around the state, particularly in Western Massachusetts. Second, the bills are designed so that the lower 40% of households come out ahead, while the middle 20% come out even, from a combination of fees and rebates. This means more money for them to spend. Because Western Mass has a higher percentage of low-income people, there will be more money in Western Mass's economy. The bills are founded on equity, and the Rise for Social Justice in Springfield has just at their annual meeting unanimously supported carbon pricing legislation. Third, Western Mass will also benefit from a rural riding provision, generating more income in Western Mass. Finally, carbon pricing, by making renewable energy more competitive, will jumpstart energy innovation. Western Mass, with its strong research infrastructure, will be poised to take advantage of this. We ask you to support three bills, Representative Benson's Bill 1726 and Goldstein Rose's Bill 1948. To move forward with carbon pricing legislation, it is imperative that the Senate show strong support. The best way to demonstrate the Senate's support is for you to co-sponsor Senator Barrett's Bill 1821 and act to support climate change, and we urge you to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so David Danielson is next, and then Patricia Crosby.
I'm afraid I'm becoming repetitive. My name is Savio Danielson, and I live in Hampshire County. I'm active with the Hampshire Council of Governments, which last December convened a gathering of 150 community leaders to look at what our priorities should be for Western Mass. Although we mentioned bridges and schools and broadband for sure, the thing that we came down most strongly on was the need for energy policy. We are very worried in Hampshire County about the future of the climate and climate change. Climate change dominated the discussion. I'm convinced that we must immediately incentivize the efficient use of carbon-based products. We need to offer rewards for efficiency and conservation. We need to reduce the amount that gets burned and how quickly, and to the extent possible, we need to keep it in the ground, not in our air, and acidifying our oceans. It's urgent to respond now. It's not easy. The aggregate demand for carbon-based fuels in Massachusetts is the sum of millions of individual decisions that are made daily. How do we really increase the price of carbon in a state where we simply cannot pass taxes on fuel without losing all of you in the next election? So I think we really need to figure out a way to work around it. And both Benson's, Jennifer Benson's Bill House 1726 and Mike Barrett's Bill Senate 1821 have a skillful workaround. The price of carbon is increased, and the money collected minus a small amount for the Commonwealth to make itself more efficient and run the program is returned to everyone, except because the driver of the Hummer pays more than the driver of the Prius and lives in a bigger house, they get less back, and money is transferred to people who are more conservative in their use of energy. These incentives change behavior, and I'm convinced that's what we literally need to do to save the world.
Following Patricia will be Matthew Maxwell.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Franklin, Hampshire Regional Employment Board and Career Center. The REB oversees workforce development for 50 cities and towns in Franklin and Hampshire County in the North Quabbin region, the upper two-thirds of the Pioneer Valley. Our 1,400 square mile region is one of the most rural in Massachusetts. Last year, we served over 5,000 job seekers and 760 employers. With the $95,000 in core funding that comes to REBS through the Workforce Training Fund, we leveraged over $2.3 million in competitive grant funding for job training. So it's a good investment of your money. To start with the positive, we are particularly excited this year about SB 1006, a bill moving through the House at this moment. Currently, the $21 million annually in workforce training funds in fees collected from employers can only be used for incumbent worker training. SB 106 would reserve 5% of the Workforce Training Fund annually, specifically for employer-driven sector training partnerships, such as the very successful ones in healthcare and manufacturing we and other workforce boards have developed. But even as these special initiatives move forward, workforce development in rural areas faces some unique challenges. Many of them I think you have already heard about today, so I will abbreviate a little. Lack of transportation. That affects people's ability to get to education and to jobs. That lack has led us to make every effort to keep full-service career centers one in each county, plus satellite services. And that means that the facilities are a huge portion of our budget. Half of the communities in the Franklin region, as you've heard, don't have access to broadband technology, and another 10 communities are underserved. Providing remote access to our services is therefore not very doable. Also, workforce funds at the federal and state level are based on unemployment rates and a variety of other factors, none of which factors take into account the barriers such as lack of public transportation, geography, and need for multiple facilities. For that and other reasons, I hope you will also look very carefully at the line item for one-stop career centers, and please ensure that it provides increased funding for those of us across the state to provide services to job seekers. Thank you.
Following Matthew will be Christina Maxwell.
My name is Matthew Maxwell. I'm a resident of Northampton. I'm advocating tonight for Senate Bill 365, an act restoring financial transparency in presidential elections. As you know, President Trump broke 4 decades of precedent in not putting forth his taxes. And for the first time in the modern era, citizens of the Commonwealth were forced to cast their ballot without the financial interests of all presidential candidates being known. Voting is our most sacred right and obligation, and citizens of the Commonwealth deserve to do it in a fully informed manner. Senate Bill 365, presented by Senator Michael J. Barrett of Lexington, would ensure that this information is available in future elections. Presidential candidates, regardless of party, would be forced to publicly release their tax returns before appearing on the Massachusetts ballot. Other states, including Hawaii and California, have taken these steps to start this legislation, and the New Jersey legislature recently passed it. But regardless of what other states do, Massachusetts must lead in this regard. If this lack of disclosure is allowed to stand, other politicians will follow President Trump's lead. And we must not normalize this lack of transparency. Fighting for transparency is fighting for democracy. And so I call on each of you to join me in not only support but advocate for Senator Barrett's bill. Please support S365.
Following Christina will be Jackie Wolf.
Good
evening, Senators. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for coming out to Western Massachusetts. I'd like to talk with you this evening about the need for increased protection around food insecurity. In this time of great danger to those people who are facing food insecurity, coming from the national government, we need to protect our Commonwealth's most vulnerable citizens. And I'm sure you're all aware of the fact that food security is not only impacting people who are experiencing hunger, but also has an impact on people who are trying to recover from drug addiction, who are trying to find jobs, students who are trying to succeed in school, and people who are trying to find and remain in their housing. So it really affects people in all areas of their life. And I'd like to thank all of you for your support in the past for the Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program, which funds so much good, nutritious food for the people of Massachusetts. And this year we'd like to ask for an increase in the line item that funds MFAP so that we will be able to supply more meals for the people of the Commonwealth. The other item that I'd like to talk with you about tonight is the SNAP gap, which is the difference in the number of people who are enrolled in SNAP, or what we used to call food stamps, and the number of people who are enrolled in Mass Health. The difference is about 680,000 people across the Commonwealth, and those 680,000 people are essentially missing. They should be enrolled in SNAP. They are very likely eligible for it, and SNAP provides a real source of stability for families who are facing food insecurity. It also brings literally millions of dollars into the Commonwealth every month. Those are federal benefits that are coming into our cities and towns and benefiting not only those families, but also the realtors. The retailers, not the realtors. Sorry, guys, I know there are a lot of you here tonight. They're the retailers at where those families are spending their dollars. So I'd appreciate your support on both of those initiatives. Thank you so much.
Following Jackie is Rebecca Shannon.
My name is Jackie Wolf. I live in Amherst and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. At a gathering of Springfield residents to discuss single payer for Massachusetts, a woman described the extreme pain in her knees. Her orthopedic surgeon advised this woman to have 2 knee replacements, one procedure this summer and the second in 6 months. This woman is worried that if the second procedure falls into 2018, she will have to cover thousands of dollars of her deductible, not once, but twice. Because of the high annual deductible of her employer's health insurance plan, she has chosen to have both knees replaced this summer. It is wrong that patients have to make poor medical decisions because of the high cost of deductibles and copays, not to mention the denial of treatment by private health insurance companies. With single payer for Massachusetts, there would be no deductibles, no copays, and no private health insurance companies coming between patients and the doctors. I urge you to hold hearings on and to pass Bill S610 H596, an act to ensure effective healthcare cost control. This bill would establish a commission to compare the actual healthcare spending in the state with the single payer model, and to move on to single payer if it is shown to be a better plan. This is time to move forward to single payer health care for Massachusetts. Thank you very much.
Next is Rebecca Shannon, followed by Beth Adams.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Shannon from Northampton, and I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts and Northampton. Increasing the Massachusetts renewable portfolio is a key environmental advocacy, is a key priority for the League of Women Voters. Increasing the Massachusetts renewable portfolio will stimulate demand for renewable energy on the part of utilities, ensure mandated compliance with the GWSA, encourage and sustain the development of in-state, in-region renewables, keeping economic benefits of renewable energy growth here in Massachusetts and in the region. And it will maintain Massachusetts' leadership on clean energy and climate action. The League also supports carbon pricing as an effective and tested means for lowering greenhouse gas emissions through the market. Thank you to Senator Barrett for his vision in introducing carbon pricing legislation in 2012 and for his continued leadership, along with Senator Pacheco, on this issue. 5 years is enough vetting, and we hope it will get done in 2017. I would also like to give a shout out for Senator Jamie Eldridge's bill, Bill 1849, an act transitioning Massachusetts to 100% renewable energy. Putting a price on carbon pollution is an essential part of an effective plan to address the accelerated advance of climate change, and it will keep Massachusetts energy dollars in the state to boost the economy overall. Lastly, and importantly, the League would like to stress the need to protect low and moderate income households during the transition to new energy sources and pricing. Thank you.
So Beth Adams is up, followed by Richard Hutchinson.
Former teacher of campuses and markets to people. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you tonight on behalf of the Mass Forest Rescue Campaign. The key issue came out a week ago in The Guardian. The title of the article was "Forests Soak Up Greenhouse Gases." So, how do we ensure their protection? In Western Massachusetts, we are fortunate to enjoy the benefits of successfully re-established forests which nearly disappeared during colonization. These richly diverse, intact forests continue to improve our air and water quality as long as they are left in the ground. Sadly, however, largely due to putting profits before climate, biodiversity, and a healthy future, these forests are being extracted to meet growing demand from the biofuel industry. One New Hampshire-based company, Froling, boasts that it has installed 187 wood boilers in New England. Where are these trees going to come from to supply these and other boilers and burners? Who is counting emissions from the logging, manufacture of wood energy and fuel production? Who is studying the health effects in places where wood boilers exist? The American Lung Association has expressed specific concerns about DOER's Sapphire grants using clean energy funds to supply pellet burners for schools. There are much cleaner methods available, such as solar-powered heat pumps and mini-splits, which are currently operating right nearby at Hampshire College, in a living building at Hitchcock Center, and Smith College. I'm not sure about UMass. Maybe someone can tell us whether they have one, but they're very efficient and they work for heating and cooling. Forests, therefore, are a front-line defense against climate change. If left alone and intact, they can reverse the climate emergency at our doorstep. So let's find ways to leave them in the ground. So there's some ideas for you in your packet. I'll be happy to speak with anybody. massforestrescue@gmail.com. Thank you.
Cheryl Becker will follow Richard.
My name is Richard Hutchinson. I represent Western Mass Animal Rights Advocates. We support Senate Bill 1155, an act to protect puppies and kittens, and Senate Bill 470, an act banning the sale of cats, dogs, and commercial pet shops, which will have the last of which will have the most impact. Some facts about the relationship between pet stores and puppy mills. Pet stores claim they don't source from puppy mills and tell customers they get animals from small-scale, humane breeders. In reality, that option does not exist because responsible breeders would never sell their puppies to pet shops because ethical breeders want to know where their puppies will end up. That pet stores claim breeders are USDA licensed is virtually meaningless. Even complying with all USDA requirements, animals can be kept in extremely inhumane conditions. In fact, the USDA itself makes clear that its standards for certification are merely survival standards. The fact remains, according to the Humane Society of the United States, 99% of pet store puppies come from puppy mills. Over 200 jurisdictions in North America have already banned retail sales of puppies, including Boston and Portland, Maine. And it looks like New Jersey will be the first state to do so. I'd like to close with 2 quotes. Gandhi, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Albert Schweitzer, we must fight against the spirit of unconscious cruelty with which we treat the animals. Animals suffer as much as we do. True humanity does not allow us to impose such sufferings on them. It is our duty to make the whole world recognize it. Until we extend our circle of compassion to all living things, humanity will not find peace. Thank you very much.
Jan Resnick will follow Cheryl.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak to you. I'm here tonight on behalf of Western Mass Human Rights Advocates as well, to advocate for Senator Charles bill. Thank you very much for sponsoring this. S-490, that will prohibit cruel and dangerous travel and wild animal acts throughout the state. This bill is essential to protect both animals and public safety. There are many facts to defend that these animals are forced to perform very unnatural acts out of mere fear, fear of pain. They're forced with electric prods, bull hooks, and they're whipped and they're stuck in chains in these tiny, cramped quarters, cages, pretty much their entire lives. It's very outdated to use wild animals in circuses. Look what happened with Ringley. We're hoping that's just the beginning of the end of wild animals in circuses in this country. But I think Mass has the chance right now to take charge and set new standards for other states in this country. Animal Defenders International has published studies with facts for over 20 years detailing the suffering of animals in traveling shows in the U.S., Latin America, and Europe, which has been a catalyst for change. Basically, all traveling wild animal acts are inherently humane and unsafe because these animals, they can only handle so much pain before they turn into aggression. As EDI and other groups have, they have videos of elephants losing control and basically injuring kids, almost killing kids that are riding on them, and people, they don't have to be riding on them, but they go crazy and lose control and can actually, they've killed a few people actually. And basically 68 jurisdictions across the U.S. have already implemented bans or restrictions on performing animals. That's quite a bit, and it's growing. Including, there are 9 in Massachusetts, including Quincy and Pittsfield, that have already passed such a ban. I think it's time to get this passed statewide, not just for the animals, but for humans as well. It's time to progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron Burns will follow Jan.
Welcome and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jan Resnick, I'm Vice Chair of the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and I live in South Hadley. You have seen today why resources available locally are critical to all Massachusetts communities and their residents, but are particularly important in Western Mass. I'd like to offer a few points on the needs and importance of libraries in the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth's library community, as does the legislature, serves every resident in the state from cradle to grave, regardless of where they live, their income, or their needs. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners administers 8 budget lines and the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program. The MBLC is the oldest statewide library agency in the United States, now in its 127th year of service. The agency is entering its 3rd consecutive budget cycle with a structural deficit. Of the funds administered by the MBLC, 96% go directly to libraries or services to libraries. Library funding is 0.06% of the state budget. That's a period of 3 zeros and a 6. The The Massachusetts Budget and Policy Center analysis of the governor's budget shows a 48.2% reduction in state funding for libraries since fiscal year 2001, and I have a handout of that report for you. The MBLC's library budget lines work in concert to provide a service infrastructure that delivers reliable online information resources, materials for education, childhood literacy, entertainment, internet access, which we provide to every library in Western Mass, and support for career and job training to anyone who needs it. These services are provided at no cost to users. This infrastructure is in danger. July 1, funds for information databases will be cut in half. Delivery services to 100 libraries will be reduced on the same date, and that is only the beginning. Our users need our services for information on all of the issues you've heard about today, and our libraries need increased adequate state funding support from you and the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Michael Doctor will follow Aaron.
Hi, my name is Erin Burns. I'm a resident of Springfield, and I teach 7th grade humanities at Chestnut South Middle School, which is part of the Empowerment Zone in Springfield. And I genuinely do feel empowered every day by myself, my students, my staff, and my principal. This empowerment comes from the trust and the respect that my principal gives to myself and my staff. We are able to make school-wide decisions with him, and this is because of the existence of teacher leadership teams. Whatever you want to call them, as long as teachers are involved with the principals, I think great things can happen at schools. However, I lose this feeling of empowerment when zone-wide decisions are made by the Empowerment Zone Board, and these decisions are brought down on us, the students, the teachers, and other staff, without any data, even after and when data is requested. To empower teachers or to innovate districts, there is no need for zones and the boards that control them. All you need is a principal who trusts and respects her staff in a classroom where she can discuss and exchange ideas with her teachers. Thank you.
So Lynn Bowmaster is going to follow Mike.
Michael Doctor, I'm a farmer in Hadley, Massachusetts, winter roots. Two issues. Climate change is one of the things that's impacting us as farmers severely. Extreme weather events are now occurring not every 10 years or 20 years, but every year, and washing out our crops. And so urging you to support the only really effective legislation that's going to make a positive impact on climate change, which is a carbon fee and rebate system. It's been accepted internationally as the proper method of impacting climate change, and it's obviously, as a business person, as a farmer, it's obvious that it can work, and we urge you to support it. As a farmer, it will obviously increase our costs for energy, but we get it, and we realize that we can budget for the energy costs. We can't budget for severe events. They hit us and they knock us out. The other issue I wanted to bring up, what a lot of farmers are concerned about right now, and it's more immediate, and that is that we're planting seeds this spring, and we're not quite sure that our immigrant labor force is going to be around to pick it, and we're not quite sure what we're going to do. And we hope that you as state senators will step up and pass Safe Driving Act. It's a different time now. Trump is president. It's time to relook at that. It's much more important now. And we hope that you can also stand up to federal overreach and make sure that you're protecting our businesses and our farmers. Thank you very much.
Larry Corvelli, I think it is following Lynn Bowmaster.
Hi, I'm Lynn Bowmaster, and I live in Hadley, and we're a farm family, and I'm here to talk on behalf of the Safe Communities Act and ask you to support it. We're really concerned about the immigrant families in the state of Massachusetts, and we want them to continue to be welcome. Thank you.
Is Larry
opportunity to speak and to be heard. The Commonwealth conversation model is a good one. The significance of our reliance on fossil fuels for energy was made clear to me in 2008 when the town of Greenfield completed an energy audit. Right there in front of my eyes, I was able to see that in FY 2008, the town of Greenfield spent $85.8 million on energy, and that over $67 million left our community, or 78% of the total. Right then I knew that we in our town needed to work to curb our energy use and to change the way we purchase energy. I am thrilled by how we have been able to adopt policies on energy efficiency by setting green building standards for any new construction of schools, by weatherizing and reconfiguring the public works facilities and other town buildings to save energy, by initiating weatherization programs for rental as well as private dwellings. So tonight, I'm here to speak up in favor of the legislation that is already in your hands. I think that the list of energy-related proposals is awesome. Many legislators across the Commonwealth are now on the same page. Bravo to the Senate. In every city and town, we, the citizens, must advocate for those bills that support meeting 100% of our energy needs with non-toxic, locally produced renewable energy, such as wind and solar, as well as bills that take steps to eliminate and sequester climate change emissions, such as carbon and methane. Those members of the TUE, the Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee, are already reviewing these proposals. We can identify that the steeper road is when the House addresses these issues. Senators, do your best to collaborate to ensure that the key components of these bills are preserved. Tell us what we, your constituents, can do to help with this negotiation. I can tell you the Commonwealth can harness market forces with public and private capital to power the transition to an economy where most of our dollar stays in the region. Thank you very much.
Okay, Deborah Levinson will follow Ellen.
Thank you very much for listening to us today. And I just have two short points. One is, please do not cut down our Massachusetts forests to produce energy. In a time of serious climate change, we need old trees to sequester carbon. In fact, more trees should be planted. Do not approve the cutting of trees for wood biomass. Farmers can be harvesting methane from cow manure in New England, from our dairy farms, and solar panels should be put up over parking lots in vacant fields and already paved vacant lots in cities, but leave the trees standing. And to that end, I would also support turning the Quabbin into a state park where logging is prohibited. Second point, I fully support single-payer Medicare for all, which is the best, most rational, and cost-effective option. Employees of existing insurance companies can be retrained to manage Medicare for all and keep their jobs. I don't care a fig about the CEOs who are skimming hundreds of millions of dollars a year from the national health care budget. Health care is a human right, not just a luxury for the rich.
Is going to follow Deborah. And would you, by any chance, back there be Larry? Very good. Stand by.
I'm Deborah Levinson. I live in Hadley. I urge you today to fight like hell for a single-payer health insurance in Massachusetts. Proposed legislation is being held up in committee. My story is that I was pretty lucky until I wasn't. I knew what it was like to lose health benefits when unemployed or at a job with inadequate coverage. And because I was lucky, I could get by with a cheap, high-deductible plan. What a difference when I got a job with better benefits. I could schedule a yearly checkup and lab tests before an infection raged out of control. Here I had simply skipped before. Then my luck changed again. About 3 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma. Copay and deductible bills started pouring in. She was finally enrolled in a clinical trial in Boston, our only hope for her survival. Unfortunately, that hospital was not included in our plan, so we paid steeper bills. A few months later, I was able to switch plans during open enrollment. It was a devastating time. But at that vulnerable moment, I had to attend to the bureaucracy that is healthcare in America and Massachusetts. When my wife died, I faced a stack of bills, explanations of benefits, co-pays, deductibles under 2 different plans, and multiple billing errors by the insurers. This while I mourned the loss of a woman I had loved for 30 years. My point is that we were lucky until we weren't. We were not forced into bankruptcy by our medical expenses, but others are. We learned that in a crisis, the best our system has to offer is good luck. I am now 65 years old and covered by Medicare. It's a better deal, and I want it for everyone. The least and best you can do is to give it a hearing.
Thank you.
I hate to follow the eloquence of this lady. I'm here to speak in support of single-payer health care. Larry Sorelli from West Chesterfield. I just retired from 45 years in medical rehabilitation as an occupational therapist, a brain injury program manager, and case manager for people with catastrophic injuries. Patients were covered by Medicaid, Medicare, group health insurance, and workers' compensation insurance. Review of proposed treatment was most often reviewed and authorized or denied by account managers with no medical expertise or medical specialists with absolutely no expertise in specialties such as brain injury, spinal cord injury, multiple trauma, or massive burns. Optimizing access to care often was a costly and time-consuming process, as we just heard. A repeated submission of written appeals and justification of treatment. Not uncommonly, attorneys became involved to either claim insurance coverage or to defend against the claim. Many of those disabled people are now living with chronic disabilities, and even if employed, are likely to be living on a shoestring budget. One major medical emergency is likely to result in crumbling of a carefully reconstructed life. I encourage legislative advocacy of a single-payer healthcare system because individuals are often overly optimistic that serious illness or injury will not happen to them, have no idea what healthcare costs really are, and grossly underestimate what it will mean to them if tragedy occurs, have no background knowledge to enable them to engage in meaningful healthcare market shopping, are targeted with marketing using language that's unfamiliar and unclear, such as deductibles and coverage caps, and are in no position to negotiate insurance coverage after they have incurred serious illness or injury. The children are a huge percentage of those receiving Medicaid insurance, and half of all bankruptcies are the result of catastrophic health care costs. It points to the necessity of simplifying the health care financing system. Thank you.
After Burke, we'll follow Jim.
Good evening. I'm Jim Lesko, the Executive Director of Amherst Media, who is proud to be here tonight and recording this event for you. It's great to have all of you out here in Western Massachusetts because I usually have to travel like the rest of us here down to Boston and be in front of you, so thank you for finding the time to come out. I'm here to talk about Senate Bill 1857, put forth and filed by one of your own, Senator Keenan, who's here tonight, and also by my best estimates, about 7 of you up there tonight have already supported this bill. The bill is to support community access television. Very quickly, it's also supported by Antonio Cabral and Ruth Balser. I encourage all of you to please really seriously consider, if you haven't already backed this, because we're really at a critical time. Most of you probably enjoy your access centers in your hometowns. You probably speak to your citizens in your hometowns, and if you don't, you should, because it's the best way to keep in touch and let us know what's going on. The community media stations, there's over 200 of us across the state. We're the most concentrated state in Massachusetts. But that does not mean that we are not without problems. We're very fearful of the FCC, what are going to be coming down soon. We need the state's involvement now more than ever. This bill basically looks at giving us the basic needs that our communities have not been able to get from the cable providers. That is HD, and channel scheduling. Very simple, but very important. When you go by our channels and they're not in the high tier, you don't find us, correct? If you go and you don't know what's coming up next, there's no schedule. What are you supposed to do? So this is something that every community, almost every community, has fought and fought for. And these cable companies, not all, there is a couple of good ones, fought back and said, we can't do it. So we're looking to the state to please help us right now move forward, give our communities what they deserve before HD is obsolete. Ultra HD and 3D will be in, and we'll be still begging for HD. Recently, there's other issues that have come forth, and thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you down the road. Thank you.
Timmy Sullivan will follow Patrick.
Hello, my name is Patrick Burke. I'm the president of the Hampshire Franklin Central Labor Council, 8,000 members across Hampshire and Franklin counties here in Western Massachusetts. I agree with much of what's been said today on single-payer health care, on public transit, on climate fee, but I'm here to speak about the Safe Communities Act. It's very hard for me to express how important this legislation is right now, given what's going on in our country, when the forms of bigotry and hatred and xenophobia that we thought were gone for 70 or 80 years are rearing their ugly head in this country now. And we, as Massachusetts, a progressive state, a state that has been welcoming to immigrants, a state that, puts itself out there as being a state welcoming to immigrants, has to take a stand, and a stand which, again, the Safe Communities Act is a very simple piece of legislation that simply ensures that our state is following the law, ensuring constitutional rights, not putting police resources into areas of federal law enforcement where it does not belong, where it does not need to be, which is entirely voluntary. And I will shout from the rooftops and knock on doors and call as many people as I can to make sure this message is heard. Because I have friends who've been deported. I have friends who've been lost their rights, people which I know my ancestors, didn't have to worry about ICE, didn't have to worry about documents, but there are people here today who did the same things that my ancestors did, that allowed me to be in this country, who are being harassed and vilified by our national government. And this law is just one basic step to ensure their dignity and their protections, and I please call on you to pass this legislation.
Good evening. My name is Timmy Sullivan, and I'm a freshman at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and a member of the Public Higher Education Network of Massachusetts. I come before you today advocating for a debt-free future for students, and I ask that you can assist us in this by supporting the Finish Line Grant, which is bill number S712, as well as supporting the Fair Share Tax Amendment and supporting collective bargaining agreements to limit tuition and fee increases. I also know that Ways and Means will be meeting here tomorrow, and I please ask that you invest fully in campuses by funding all campus budgets, supporting collective bargaining agreements, supporting adjunct and non-tenure track faculty with pay equity in healthcare. I also ask that you protect immigrant students and communities by protecting DACA and other undocumented immigrant students with bill number S669, as well as assisting in preventing our public colleges and universities from releasing student data with S704. I come before you today as a student and a member of the Commonwealth and a believer. I believe that investing in students, that investing in young people is not just an investment in education, but an investment in the future and the lives of every single member of this Commonwealth. Thank you.
Neil Clark will follow Jeff.
It's good to see that our future is in good hands. Nice job, too. Thank you for coming out tonight, out to Western Massachusetts. My name is Jeff Smith, resident of Hadley, and I'm a certified athletic trainer. Athletic trainers are healthcare professionals. We render care in collaboration with the physician in accordance with our education and training, as well as the state's statutes, rules, and regulations. We provide injury and illness prevention, wellness promotion and education, emergent care, clinical diagnosis, and therapeutic rehabilitation of injuries. Athletic training is a healthcare profession recognized by the American Medical Association. I'd like to highlight two bills before the legislature, both sponsored by Senator Rush. S-1263, an act relative to the practice of athletic training, is intended to update 35-year-old Practice Act language, no longer reflective of today's profession. Current language limits our employment settings and who can utilize our services. Right now, active individuals are limited in who they can seek out for their health care. The second bill is S-310, an act relative to student safety in interscholastic athletic activities, which seeks to require schools to hire an athletic trainer. Approximately 60% of high schools in the Commonwealth have an athletic trainer on staff. We don't allow our students to attend schools without a school nurse, yet hundreds, if not thousands, of children participate in higher risk athletic and extracurricular activities daily with no medical personnel or supervision available after the nurses leave. Athletic trainers can assist athletes and their families with return to play and return to learn protocols after concussion so that they do not incur further injury. My son is 10 years old and will enter high school in about 3 years. He will be going to Hopkins Academy here in Akron. We don't have an athletic trainer on staff right now. I would love to see an athletic trainer in place in those 3 years. I really appreciate the time on behalf of my colleagues and your constituents. Thank you.
Following Neil will be Christine Luna.
Good evening, Senators. My name is Neil Clark. I am a resident of Lee, Mass Teachers Association Senate District Coordinator in Senator Hines' district. And I'd like to echo some of the opening remarks that you made this evening about education, public education in the Commonwealth. And there is indeed an awful lot to be proud of. That Massachusetts public education is #1 in a lot of categories, not only across the country, but highly ranked amongst educational institutions in the world. There is a threat, though, that people in my area, in Senator Hines' district, have personally really come to start to realize that threaten the ranking of public higher education, and that is tax ceilings that our small rural areas are starting to hit. Now, the ceilings, they cannot raise revenue even if they wanted to. There's no such thing as an override for them anymore. So that is the problem that they're facing, that they're going to have to either make substantial cuts to their quality public education that they still want to provide, or they're going to have to find ways of shifting around revenue. Now, the MTA does have 3 omnibus bills before you, and one of them is Senate 308 that has in it a moratorium on high-stakes testing. And I come before you really pushing that concept in the sense that fiscally, if we cannot afford the tests, let's take that money and put it towards quality public education. It's a 3-year moratorium where all the constituents will be involved in coming up with alternatives to these tests. God knows, I don't have a figure, tens of millions of dollars in the tests and the test prep materials, etc. I think we got along pretty well before that industry got involved in public education, and I'm relatively confident in my colleagues and the products that are being produced, as evidenced by the student speaker, that we can continue without their influence. Thank you very much.
Christine will be followed by Bob Torville, I think it is.
Good evening, Senators. My name is Christine Good, and I'm from Wilbraham. I'm an educator in the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District. As a regional school district, with our 2 towns, Hampton and Wilbraham, we are currently suffering a budget of greater than $1 million. We provide, as all school districts do across the Commonwealth, an excellent education for our students. Over 90% of children in the state attend a public school that's funded and actually controlled locally. I'm asking the senators to thank the senators that have signed on to Massachusetts Teacher Association Big Omnibus bills. One of them is the act of strengthening and investing in our educators, students, and communities. You have done a study, a foundation budget review commission, which in your own study you have said you have shortfalled your communities and your constituents over $1 billion in education. I'm asking you as senators to go work with our representatives in the House and put the money back into our communities, into our education system, back into our school districts, and continue our excellent education of our K through 12, as well as our higher ed. I'm counting on you to help us out. Thank you.
So following Bob will be Susan Wright.
Good evening, Senators. Thank you. My name is Bob Rosenberg from Wilbraham. I have three things I'd like to talk about. One, I saw today that Nevada and Utah, both states decided they had to put a system in place for Planned Parenthood in case this current administration comes back after the ACA. And I hope that we already have one. I assume we do. If we don't, perhaps it's time to start because they'll be back. And the next thing is broadband. The current administration is going to kill the Net Neutrality Act, which is very important. It provides cable companies from being able to choke you off, charge you more. There's also an aspect in there which should help low income. The third thing I'd like to point out is we're again at a time of the year economy, and the big question is the productivity paradox. We have all this automation, we have all this technology. Why isn't productivity going up? And I would suggest a book by Ryan Evans, which explains this problem, and perhaps we, as Massachusetts, can be in the forefront of getting around it. Thank you.
Chris Fox will follow Susan.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Susan Renfrew. I live in Bernardston. I am also past president of the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, and I'm here to bang the drum for broadband, as well as offer my voice in the chorus for the other three bills that were talked about earlier today. This issue is really, really critical, and as Corinne mentioned earlier, it is reaching crisis proportions, and I'd like to talk a little bit about schools and communities. We know that the lack of broadband internet has already caused harm to sellers who have lost value in their homes because they cannot sell without broadband. We know that towns have lost economic opportunities because expansion is not possible for businesses that cannot access the internet. And we know that entrepreneurs and creatives who tend to work from home and need access to broadband internet to market those products that they're creating there are held back from doing so when they live in these communities. But I want to talk about schools because I think there might not be enough emphasis placed on what broadband, or the lack of broadband, does to declining enrollments, especially over regional school districts. And when regional school budgets are affected by so many other things, school choice and lack of transportation funding and so forth, the lack of broadband is contributing to the declining enrollments there because we are prohibited from bringing in children to live in these communities. We have many school districts in Western Mass who have already closed elementary schools and are considering closing elementary schools. And this is a great concern to me because these are the hearts of the community. This is where young parents meet for the first time over the common shared interest of the education of their children, where they form bonds, where they start to volunteer in their community as coaches and the band and so forth. And it is really important. We're encouraged by the steps that have been taken so far in the last few weeks, but this has to remain a high priority, and I ask you to do that. Thank you.
David Sigovich will follow Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Fox. I'm a citizen of Belchertown, and so grateful to be able to speak to all of you. I come here as a concerned citizen and as an appreciative citizen. My concern has to do with the outcome of the not-so-distant presidential election, and I get together with friends all the time and we talk about what is it that we can do, how can we help move things forward so that the administration we have and the mistakes that it appears they're making won't be repeated in the future. And one of the things that one of my groups of friends and I had discussed was wouldn't it be great if people who are running for president were required to disclose their income tax returns? And we're so appreciative that Senate Bill 365 exists, and I hope it's moving forward and will become law in the Commonwealth. That's my concern. And then, as I'm here as an appreciative citizen as well, we're here at UMass. I'm a graduate of UMass. My wife from Vermont got her master's degree here, and my son went to Commonwealth Honors College here and got a terrific education, a real terrific value. And I just want to say, anybody in the audience who doesn't know about Commonwealth Honors College here at UMass really should know about it, and to say thank you for it. Thanks.
Barney McCracken will follow David.
Hello, my name is Dave Sefovich. I live in Berniston. Thank you for coming to Western Massachusetts. I'd just like to say that I'm very proud to be a resident, a lifelong resident of Massachusetts, because I can stand with my head held high on progressive issues that this legislature has always led in. One of the areas that you did lead in was in marriage equality, but unfortunately not all marriages last, and when it comes to move on with life, we have alimony, and alimony for life is my concern. In 2011, a bill was passed unanimously by both the Senate and the House. It's not a very common thing, I don't think, but it ushered in alimony reform. The Supreme Judicial Court, however, intervened and misconstrued that bill in a unfortunate way that created two classes of citizens. Now, the people who were divorced after March of 2011 or those before. House 740, an act to reform alimony in the Commonwealth, is coming up. It restores the original intent of the bill. It seeks to restore the legislative intent so that all payers of alimony who had judgments in effect before March 1st of 2012 have the same legal options as payers with judgments post-March 2012. It allows for modification. It allows for judicial review. It is a fair and just way of determining alimony. In my case, alimony for life will keep me from retirement. I work 2 jobs. I paid every payment on time, but yet I cannot afford to fund my own retirement. So I ask you for your support of H 740 to restore fairness for those people affected by divorce.
Judy Atkins will follow Bonnie. Bonnie has to leave, okay? Judy Atkins, please come forward, and Lisa Blackmer will follow.
Good evening, and thanks for coming out to Western Mass. My name is Judy Atkins, and I live in Greenfield, Mass. My personal health care story is that I've been fighting for single-payer health care since 1982, and others have struggled even longer. The time for single-payer health care is now. We can all breathe a sigh of relief that the Trump and the Ryan repeal and replace the ACA bill has gone down to defeat. But now is the time we must take up the fight for universal health care at the state level and the federal level. Here in Franklin County, the Organization for Universal, Affordable, Quality Care, paid for by means of a single-payer system, is growing. The Single-Payer Task Force of the Franklin County Continuing the Political Revolution group has now over 30 activists, and another group has formed in Hampshire County. Spontaneous demonstrations are almost a weekly occurrence, and more people are becoming engaged in the issue. We specifically ask for your support of the Medicare for All bill in the State Senate, S619, and to speak in favor of this bill to your constituents. Passage of the bill will go far to help solve the health care shortcomings for people in Massachusetts. Thank you for the opportunity.
Caroline Murray will follow Lisa.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out. My name is Lisa Blackmer. I'm a North Adams City Councilor, Treasurer-Collector in the town of Buckland, and the immediate past president of the Massachusetts Municipal Association. I'd like to thank you, those of you who have supported some of our initiatives. I've served on the policy committee for regional and municipal administration, and several of you have worked with us on sponsoring legislation important to cities and towns. A couple of issues that come up. I serve on the alumni board of Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts. So one, I'd love to have you guys come out to MCLA next year to do this, move a little farther west. Actually, it's as far west as you get without leaving the state. And hear some of the concerns of Berkshire County, because I know there's only a few of us here. One of the things that affects, obviously, higher education, MCLA is an economic driver in North Adams. It's an important economic driver, but the funding for our students, the average cost, or what we call the gap between the student need and the student actual need, is $5,000. And so many students don't return to our campus because they can't afford that $5,000. From a municipal point of view, and this isn't just North Adams, this is a lot of small communities, every city and town is impacted by Airbnb or its other namesakes. The federal government has a 14-day Airbnb issues a 1099 to any Airbnb site that has more than 14 days of use. I think that's a much better place to start than the governor's 180 days. 180 days doesn't help us in Berkshire County. Our season's about 2.5 months long. The other thing, I think I couldn't make the transportation issue meeting that you had, so obviously I want to make the case for funding for cities and towns for road projects or bridges and other infrastructure needs. Thank you again.
Anna Claire Simpson will follow Caroline.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm here to talk about the executive order on immigrants and refugees passed by our esteemed president. The executive orders are authoritarianism at worst and unconstitutional at best. From the Muslim ban to the rhetoric around undocumented people being criminals, it is a diversion tactic aimed at dividing us with the politics of fear. What exactly do these EOs say? First of all, there's an expanded definition of crime, so that virtually every misdemeanor is a crime. Driving through a stop sign is now a crime. I can tell you, I got a ticket for that 2 weeks ago. Crossing the border is now a crime, which you should know is actually a misdemeanor. So virtually everyone is being ensnared in these expanded deportation orders. There's also an expanded definition of expedited removal, so that people are now being deported with no due process and no judge's order. Secretary Kelly has recently said he's going to jail mothers and put their children in foster care. Customs and Border Patrol have recently boarded domestic flights, demanding every person on the flight show their papers. This is unconstitutional. Just this morning, ICE agents went without a warrant to an unarmed man's home in Chicago and shot him. He's in the hospital. And yesterday, a 25-year-old young man who's a soccer coach with DACA status was arrested at his home. The Safe Communities Act is one tool in a toolkit of resistance, and it is urgent that we pass it in the state of Massachusetts. It will ensure that there is no Muslim registry, that there are basic due process rights for people who are detained. It will ensure police resources are used to fight crime and build community, not separate families. It will prohibit agreements with the Department of Homeland Security like those in existence in Bristol and Plymouth counties with the sheriffs. Thank you to Senator Eldridge and the 8 of you who are supporting this bill. However, we call on Senators Rosenberg, Humison, Keenan, Lesser, Roderick, and Tarr, all of you who are here, to please support this bill. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Claire Simpson. I'm an educator here at UMass Amherst. I'm also a PhD student. I study history as well as literature. I'm also a resident of Turner's Falls, Massachusetts. So continuing on what Carolyn said and what Patrick Burke said earlier, I am also a supporter of the Safe Communities Act. I work tirelessly for the sanctuary movement on the UMass campus. For me, and I don't know if this is how you see it, but if you do not support the Safe Communities Act, for me, you choose the wrong side of history. It means you choose the violence that is xenophobia, the destruction of families, that you do not support immigration as a women's issue, as a children's issue, as a labor justice issue. It means you tacitly support the deportation of 11 million people, that you support a Muslim registry. And as a Jewish American woman, I'm horrified by the parallels I see between Trump's immigration policies and the U.S.'s shameful history as a nation that legally enforced a racial caste system, that legally supported the internment of its Japanese citizens. I'm horrified by the parallels, obviously, to Nazi Germany's ghettoization of the Jewish people. And we, the people, urge you to be on the right side of history. The Nazis isolated populations in order to naturalize their surgical removal from national identity and national belonging. The complicity of the German people in permitting this dehumanization of Jews, queer people, differently abled people, remains a deep source of shame and pain, and we do not want you to be complicit in this. Thank you.
In his comments to Politico on February 15th, Speaker DeLeo made it clear that he does not support the Safe Communities Act. Since then, the Speaker has prevented the Joint Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security from holding a hearing on the Act. Without these hearings, the Act will die in committee. I want to ask, can people who support this Act stand up? Thank you. Regardless of where you stand on the Act, we demand you uphold democracy and ask Speaker DeLeo directly to hold hearings on the Safe Communities Act.
Michael, you want to raise the microphone there you go.
How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Michael Weeks, a resident of Longmeadow and the leader of the Providers Council, which is a statewide association of community-based health and human service organizations here in Massachusetts that provides services to 1 in 10 residents in Massachusetts. Our sector is considered perhaps other state responders, working with people with intellectual and physical disabilities, those who are struggling with the opioid crisis, mental health issues, children and women who are at risk, those who are in our juvenile justice system, our homeless, many others who are part of our vulnerable citizens rely on the human services sector to provide them with the support, protection, and care that they need. I'm here to talk about an issue that's come forth over the past couple of years that's been exacerbated, and that's the workforce crisis that we're facing in our sector. I have a report that was done by the University of Massachusetts Donahue Institute along with UMass Dartmouth called The Workforce Crisis Here in Massachusetts. We have a crisis that's really one that's been borne by a few things. One, we're seeing increased demand. We have a shrinking workforce here in Massachusetts, and we have low pay for our human services workers. We've offered 3 solutions, which I'm pleased that the Senate is looking at, and we hope it will be adopted. These solutions are part of a bigger picture about how we can solve this. They alone won't do it, but they will be a great start. One is Senate 42, which is a loan repayment plan that's been sponsored by Senator Flanagan. We know that millennials can very hardly live here in Massachusetts. Many of them are incurring tremendous debts, and they're leaving. These are the very people that we like in our sector. Okay, I will leave that at that point, but thank you for your time.
And following this will be Robert, looks like Karen's. Okay, Robert's not here, so David, G-O-T-T-S-E-G-E-N.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Brewer, and I've been a Town of Amherst Representative Town Meeting member since 1999. I was a school committee member for 5 years, and now a select board member for 10 years. Welcome again to the wonderful town of Amherst, UMass Amherst, and thanks so much for being here. In terms of Sanctuary City, I fully expect our Amherst Representative Town Meeting will indeed risk needing to replace the $1.5 million federal dollars per year that help with some of our residents' biggest challenges, because we recognize that our safety depends on people not being afraid that if they call the police with a problem, now they have two problems. Recreational marijuana. As you might imagine, here in Amherst, we welcomed medical marijuana with proactive zoning in 2013, and we now look forward to appropriate recreational marijuana legislative repairs to allow effective regulations that enable us to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents with 30% of our population under age 20. Control over local revenue. While we have great relationships with Amherst College, Hampshire College, and our wonderful friends here at UMass, and all their students and employees are obviously the major contributors to our local economy, like other nonprofits, they have no mandate to contribute to the services and infrastructure we provide for both residents and daytime visitors. Depending on which road you travel to get here today, you can see the incredible recent and ongoing construction projects here on campus. And we just last week reopened the iconic Old Chapel, as well as opening the first net zero energy building in the UMass system, Crowdy Hall. Yet you may also notice that our roads have taken quite a beating from all that heavy equipment needed daily over the last few years. And despite a residential tax rate of $21.83, an average single-family home bill of $7,300, and careful annual capital investment, including substantial borrowing, 28% of our roads are structurally damaged, with a backlog of $16 million in Amherst alone. We also do appreciate complete street spending as we continue to improve our walkable, writable community that is very proud to be one of the few municipalities in the Commonwealth providing just over 10% affordable housing. Thank you for your support of the Fair Share Amendment.
Peter, let's see, is David here? G-O-T-T? No. So Peter Primo, you're next, and then Stephen Hickner, or Eichner.
Hi, I'm Peter Primo. I'm from Charlton, Massachusetts. I'm here also to speak about alimony reform. I'm in the same situation as the gentleman who spoke earlier, where I will not have a retirement because I was divorced before the alimony reform bill took place. The intention of the bill excuse me, was to include me, but some judgments had changed that. And now I'm in a situation where I was bringing my ex-wife had abandoned me and my family, and I raised my kids by myself, and now I'm in a situation where I'm really strapped for cash, and even if I lose my job, I'll still have to pay because there's no term limits or anything else. So please support so that we can all be treated equally. Thank you.
Stephen, you're up, followed by Ann Miller.
It's nice to see some of you again. I'd like to know how many of you were here in 2011 in the Senate. Then you voted, you were part of the group that voted unanimous for the Alimony Reform Act. Everyone knew that it was retroactive in all cases, but the SJC, unfortunately, said shall doesn't mean shall any longer, and they made an interpretation that took it away, took the retirement issue and the cohabitation issue away from pre-2011 divorces. I think it was unfair. I think it was interesting that one of the leaders of the Senate who helped get it passed was Gail Conderas, who most of you know and must love. Sorry she's not still with us in the Senate. At the same time that she worked hard to pass legislation, the judge in this area made a ruling that it didn't apply. So I'm hoping that when we see the bill come before the Senate again, that you vote yes, make it unanimous again. The naysayers say, well, what happens to someone who needs the alimony? the judge can use a deviation factor for that person. And when we wrote the bill on the task force, I was a member of the task force. We allow deviations for that purpose. Thank you again.
Emily Green will follow Ann Miller.
Hi, I'm Ann Miller. I'm from Palmer, Massachusetts. I actually work here in Amherst, and I would love to be able to take a train between Palmer and Amherst. When I moved out here from the Boston area 15 years ago, I was shocked at the level of economic hardship and the lack of opportunity of some of my neighbors. We really cannot address the huge inequity between the eastern and western parts of the state until we address our infrastructure issues. Boston to Springfield train, passenger rail with additional trains on the Knowledge Corridor would be a game changer for our region. It would also be an economic driver that would address many of our other issues. I know many of you here today, many of you senators have supported Senator Lesser's bill to study high-speed rail between Boston and Springfield. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for that, and I hope for your continued support. Unfortunately, when I speak with the DOT, they see this as a very far-out project. We really cannot wait 20 years for that level of economic development. The governor, as many of you know, is not supportive, so I'm asking my fellow citizens here tonight to please contact the governor's office and tell him we need passenger rail between Boston and Springfield. And if you haven't seen our flyer on your way in, we have more of them in the back, and we also have the email from the DOT. They're currently working on the 5-year plan. We would like to see it on that 5-year plan, not the 20-year plan. Thank you very much.
Following Emily will be Casey Pease.
Hello, and I want to thank all of you for coming out here. It's a great opportunity for you to hear us and for us to be able to tell you the important things in our lives. I do want to say, I'm going to be talking about single payer. As you can see by the number of people who are talking about this, this is a really important issue. I am a nurse. I've spent 40 years of my life taking care of people, and I never once felt like we had a good health care system. I wish that we could have enacted way long ago a single-payer system where everybody had the right to health care, not just the privilege of having health care if you're rich. So I'm once again asking you, please, get these two bills out. I'm part of this group, the Franklin County Continue the Political Revolution, which is a group of 700 members, and we are working very hard to help you by showing you the difference in what you would pay if you, just in your employees in a town, the savings that you would have between single payer and what they now pay through an insurance company. And also, I just want to point out that, the fact that people get sick should not be a way that we make money through profit. I would love to see profit out of healthcare altogether. Thank you very much.
Ginger Robinson will follow Casey.
Thank you, all senators, for coming out to Western Massachusetts today. My name is Casey Pease. I'm from Worthington, and I'm a student here at UMass Amherst. I'm asking you to support S681, an act making public higher education in Massachusetts free for residents, and an act promoting access to debt-free public higher education. With the current situation and realities of Betsy DeVos and the Trump administration, I think Massachusetts can play a huge role in supporting our young people and making an investment. Free education isn't just, we want free things. It is an investment. And it's not fair that when I graduate this school, a public school, with tens of thousands of dollars of debt, that I'll be starting out my life in debt. The other thing I want to support is actually Senator Lesser's bill, S2253, an act
involves youth and civic engagement, which requires the Department of Education to develop model curricula to teach students about civics, and establishes an advisory committee of young people to review curriculum. I think the results of the past election shows that we need to highlight civic engagement in our public education, and we need to encourage our young people to raise their voice, to get involved, to be active, and to vote. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Ginger.
I'm also here to advocate for Medicare for all. I'm a person who requires a lot of healthcare to stay healthy and, frankly, to stay alive. Because I've been in the trenches of navigating the healthcare system, I understand how difficult, and this is a key word here, destabilizing it is to individuals and families and communities. And aside from the moral imperative that I hope that you already all understand, I want to make a point that I feel like is missed sometimes. A single-payer system will promote a more stable society. And this stability promotes economic growth. It encourages small business development through more predictable costs. It will encourage people to move here, which we need. With this stability and security, people will take chances, and Western Massachusetts needs people to take chances and reach out into new creative ways for economic growth. And I know people are here tonight asking for a lot of money. I know this is expensive. Healthcare is expensive. And I'm telling you, I'm willing to pay more, and a lot of us are willing to pay more to see that stability and see us all get covered and to have a more stable and peaceful communities. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, after we hear from Guy, we're going to hear from Mark Bucchiatelli or something of that nature. Mark, hopefully you're hearing will explain how we should say that. Okay, Guy, you're up.
Hi, my name is Guy. I'll keep this short, mostly because I'm terrified of public speaking. But there is a big issue with our government, and that is the money in politics. Our government is being bought by billionaires and corporations. Massachusetts has been great. They've sent a resolution 3 different sessions asking Congress to please fix this issue by getting an amendment to the convention. Congress hasn't done that, and I don't think they're about to do that. Luckily, the Founding Fathers were smart enough, and they foresaw this issue, and they put in Article 5 of the Constitution a route where we could bypass Congress entirely. And I'd like to urge the Mass Legislature to do that. There is a bill by Senator Eldridge in the Senate, S379. Many of you are already sponsors of it. Those of you who don't know about it, please talk to Senator Eldridge, and he can answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, you're up, followed by Dick Stein.
My name is Mark Lucciarelli. I'm a resident of Amherst, and I'm here as a concerned citizen and a supporter of single payer. I'd like to thank you all for coming out to listen to us tonight. This is my first time in any kind of a forum like this, and I was inspired by the questions that were raised in our recent Democratic presidential primary. Why does the wealthiest country in the world pay twice as much for a product that's inferior to what other countries? And I still haven't heard a good answer to that. My understanding is as a state, 40% of our budget goes to health care. Is that right?
Yeah.
4?
42.
32% or
42. 42, but who's counting?
Thank you. 40 is close enough. I think that's shocking when I heard that. So for me, what tipped the balance was the idea of pre-existing conditions. Insurance, free market is never going to cover a pre-existing condition because it's all about, you know how auto insurance works. The teenager drivers pay more than the older drivers. There's no economic case for covering a pre-existing condition. And with how science is advancing in DNA testing, pretty soon that pool of expensive health care is going to broaden. So government has to be involved to solve that. If maybe you think it's fair that someone who's born with a child that has some kind of disability, they should pay more. If you do, then the free market solution is for you. But I don't think that's fair, and I think most people don't. Let's see. So if I have enough time, I'll just close with a personal story. This echoes Ginger's comments from earlier. I was starting a business before Omnicare, a $300 major medical with a huge deductible. I could float it. Omnicare passed. Over the next 2 or 3 years, my annual Medicare, healthcare went up to $1 grand, so I went back to work. I think this healthcare reform can really energize entrepreneurship in the state. Thank you.
Okay, following next time will be signed Riemann.
I'm Dick Stein. I'm a 66-year resident of Amherst and retired as a professor of chemistry 26 years ago. I've had the pleasure of witnessing the growth of UMass from a Cal College to a major university, which included the construction of this building in which we're meeting today. Since retiring, I've been interested in the environment, and particularly global warming. And as a scientist and a member of the National Academy of Science and National Academy of Engineering, I believe, in agreement with the majority of my colleagues, that global warming is real, and the burning of fossil fuel producing carbon dioxide is a major source of the problem. And the recommendation which they make is we have to stop burning fossil fuel and go to renewable energy. Bills being considered by the legislature this year, and particularly the bill by Senator Barrett on the carbon pricing and carbon fee and rebate, is an important addition to this, since it will not cost the Commonwealth any appreciable amount of money, and the money collected will be largely returned to its citizens. It will level the playing field for fossil fuels, for renewables, and make them more competitive with fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are today getting a free ride, and that the fuel companies are not paying for the pollution in which they produce. And these costs are being covered by the taxes which we pay to our cities and towns. So this bill will reduce this tax burden and produce a very desirable effect on the environment. It seems to me that it's a winner, and it will help our environment, help our economy, and solve a major environmental problem. Thank you.
Teresa Frankhauser will follow. Is it Sid?
Yes, it is.
Sid.
Hi, my name is Sid Ryman. I'm from the town of Pelham, the Hill. We have a very small town of 200 people. And I'd actually love to thank the state of Massachusetts and you fellows for having the Community Preservation Act. It's really helped us do a lot of things in town that we couldn't afford to, one of which is to actually shore up the oldest functioning town hall in the whole country. So thanks for that. And I'm also here to direct a little attention to SD 922, also HB 779, which is kind of an act prohibiting discrimination in state contracts, which from my understanding makes it illegal in the state of Massachusetts to engage in boycott, divestment, and sanctioning. That's troublesome to me because that infringes upon our right of free speech and free expression. And our country engages in BDS all the time, whenever they feel like it. We did it as a country in relation to South Africa during apartheid. Students did it at Smith College to try to get the college to divest from oil. Some people feel that it's important to engage in BDS against Israel right now, which I know is a big bone of contention, and from what I understand, there's 14 other states that have already passed something similar to this to outlaw BDS and couch it as some sort of anti-Semitism if people decide to engage in BDS against Israel. So that's troubling to me, and I wanted to bring some attention to that. Thank you.
Teresa here? Okay, and following Teresa will be, is it Lone, L-A-U-N-E, Milman? Something like that. Lori? Oh my gosh. Lori, hello. Okay, Teresa.
Hello. I have a lot prepared today, but I would like to bring your attention to limiting the influence of money in government. Bills S-379 and H 1926. Corporate influence and the influence of the wealthy in our political process. And I don't know, I'm kind of nervous. But in our political process limits the what the people want in our political process. I'm sorry, I'm in a little bit of distress because I have a spinal cord injury. And I've been waiting here for a long time. So that's all I want to say. Thank you. And have a nice day.
Thank you. Lori? Sorry, I just couldn't read your writing. I'm sorry, Lori. So Sarah Weinberger will follow.
Nobody can read my writing, but thank you for being here, for giving us this opportunity. My name is Lori Millman. I'm the director of Center for New Americans, and I'm here to urge you to consider Senate Bill 1305, the State Communities Act, as others have said, and to get it passed this year. I won't go into too much detail because it's late and you've already heard. It's an economic issue. Immigrants have always been an important part of the economic life of our community. As Michael Doctor referred to, the farms, the restaurants, they're part of the cultural life of our community. They're our neighbors. It's a Civil Rights Act. This part of the state would have lost population if it were not for immigrants, and would lose congressional representation. Please pass it quickly. This is who Massachusetts is. Thank you.
So following Sarah will be Diane Jensen Ozlowski.
My name is Sarah Weinberger. I'm from East Hampton, Massachusetts, and I'm a co-founder of Voices from Inside, a creative writing program for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women. And I'm here tonight to ask the Senate and the House to finally pass some comprehensive criminal justice reform in the state that goes beyond the recommendations from the Council of Governors report. We need to have criminal justice reform that will lessen incarceration, increase access to treatment, and increase public safety, that will finally put an end to mandatory minimum sentences on nonviolent drug convictions. It's crazy that marijuana is now legal in this state, and there are people languishing in jail for marijuana distribution. That will raise the threshold for a felony for theft from $250 to $1,500. We're operating under antiquated laws that will repeal the fines and fees and collateral penalties on ex-prisoners, like the $65 a month probation fee on ex-prisoners who hold low-wage jobs. We need quarry reform to enable ex-prisoners to get jobs, including lowering the number of years employers can see quarries from the current 10 years for felonies and 5 years for misdemeanors to 7 years and 3 years, respectively. We need bail reform to enable those with nonviolent charges to not languish in jail because they can't afford bail. And we need to support budget line items for job training for ex-prisoners. And I won't take the time to go through all those line items, but I I hope tomorrow when the Ways and Means Committee meets that they will consider those. It's really time to focus on jobs, not jails, and focus on education and instead of incarceration. And I really want to thank Senator Jamie Eldridge and Senator Jane Diaz for their efforts in this. Thank you.
Is Diane Jensen here? Okay, Kathleen O'Neill is next, followed by Eric Wilkinson. Is Kathleen O'Neill? Okay, how about Eric Wilkinson? Eric, okay, following Eric will be Adam Garfield. Are you here, Eric? I'm sorry, Adam? Okay, following Eric will be Leonore Alanis. Are you here? Yes, okay.
Mr. President, Senators, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. My name is Eric Wilkinson. I'm an Amherst resident. I'm also the Director of Energy and Climate Policy at the Environmental League of Massachusetts in Boston. Today, the Trump administration formally abdicated any semblance of federal government's leadership role on climate change, and the states must now step up into that vacuum and lead. In Massachusetts, we have a strong history of leadership on climate change policy. We need to build on that. We need to do more. There are things that need immediate attention at the state and regional levels. For example, first, we need to pave the way for more renewable energy resources to help combat climate change by things like increasing the amount of clean energy that utilities are required by ratcheting up the state's renewable portfolio standards, that's SB 1876, and similarly lifting the existing cap on solar development, or net metering, that's SB 1871. Second, we need to increase opportunities for energy efficiency by passing a bill that would require homes on the market to have an energy efficiency assessment and a score, like an MPG sticker on a car, so consumers can know exactly what they're buying. That's SB 1839. Finally, we should strengthen the emissions limits on electric generators through the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Thanks to the leadership demonstrated by Bay State lawmakers and policymakers and the rapidly falling prices of renewable energy, we will be home to the nation's first large-scale offshore wind facility soon. Unfortunately, it will take some years for this project to get designed, built, and put into operation. In the meantime, we need to act on the types of near-term solutions that just help. Thank you very much.
Leonore Alanis, followed by Sarah McKee.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. I just became a citizen 2 days ago, and I have it never occurred to me that I would see so many senators all at once and even have the opportunity to participate in an event like this. So I want to thank you again. I'd like to draw your attention to a much lesser known cause or issue, and that is the exposure the average American has to electrosmog, microwaves, the soup of radio waves, emissions from smart meter networks, antennas on public school buildings and others, and the planned rollout of the 5G internet network. The latter is not tested, yet the health ramifications are huge. The U.S. has the highest levels of frequency emission standards in the technical world, as far as I know. In France, for example, the hours school children are allowed in front of computers in schools is regulated. There exist several bills in the state senate that address these issues. I don't know the numbers today, I couldn't prepare for that, but we are a few citizens who are quite concerned about it, really on behalf of many people who don't even know yet that they are electro-hypersensitive. So let me look at my notes. Yeah, right now maybe it's 2 bills, but others have come and gone. Many illnesses are attributed to these frequencies. So the bees would react to the ants do and the trees do. So I urge you, please, when these bills come across your desk, pay attention to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah McKee. I'm sure I see you standing in the back. Were your name called earlier? Yeah. Yeah, then please get in line and be introduced after Sarah.
Good evening. Senate President Rosenberg and distinguished members of the Senate, thank you very much for listening. I am a former federal prosecutor. In 2013, I served on the legislature's Registry of Deeds Commission as Governor Deval Patrick's appointee for law. Since then, I have volunteered with the Massachusetts Alliance Against Predatory Lending, known as MAPLE. Why? Because foreclosure devastates families. My grandparents were foreclosed during the Great Depression. My mother came home from school one day to see the sheriff's men carrying all her family's belongings out of the house, putting them on the curb. Mom lived until she was 89. I think the trauma of that day drove her until the end. Since 2006, more than 74,000 Massachusetts families have also lost their homes to foreclosure. Because of how banks sold and resold and lost track of mortgages, many of those, tens of thousands of those foreclosures are illegal. What can the legislature do now? Maple has a suite of 9 bills before you in this session. Taken together, they are a comprehensive solution. They include Senator Chandler's bill for mandatory mediation before foreclosure. This has a terrific track record of keeping people in their homes, saving banks money, actually, and it deserves passage. They include Senator Eldridge's Act to Prevent Unnecessary Vacancies. Thank you very much, Senator, for this and other things. And my own baby. I'll leave that a mystery. You can see it in the notes. And thank you so much.
Are you Leonore? Say it again. Come on up, Adam. Thank you. I'll try to make this a little bit quicker since I feel like some of my comments have already been said. So my name is Adam Garfield. I'm a voter from Northampton, Massachusetts, and I'm also on the political committee of United Auto Workers Local 2322, representing thousands of union members statewide in the urge to pass the Safe Communities Act, Bill 1305. When we do look at this federal government that has been treating our communities and families with this executive order and travel ban, we do demand that you do everything in your power to protect our families and our communities in the local areas. Senators Warren and Markey have written a letter that you might have seen to the executive branch and cabinet stating the unconstitutionality of the executive order and commenting that the threats to communities and justification for it is absolutely baseless. Attorney General Maura Healey has gone on the record stating that the order also has been unconstitutional, as well as 300 law scholars. And firstly, to fight this, over time, Boston, Somersville, Newton, Amherst, and Northampton have all put together some form of sanctuary legislation at the local level. However, this is not enough. Families are falling through the cracks statewide between these cities and are vulnerable to ICE, deportation, and the tearing apart of families. That is why we are urging you today to support the Safe Communities Act and stand on the right side of history. Thank you very much, and have a good night. So next up is Grace Ross, followed by Caroline Jordan.
So I'm basically, my name is Grace Ross, coordinator of Mass Alliance Against Predatory Lending. I'm basically going to cede my time to some folks who came late from Pittsfield who couldn't get here on time to sign in. One of them is Marnique, and I think she's too shy to speak, but she has now 3 times been locked out of her home post-foreclosure without ever having an eviction process. And the realtor has done this and has threatened to take her to the police if she moves back into her own home that she has her own keys to, and they will not let her move back in. So the situation has completely devolved, and I will let Marlena speak.
Mr. President, I'm sorry just to jump in, but I just want to mention, Grace, I don't want to make any assumptions, but if Marnique is shy to speak because if she speaks a Spanish speaker, I'm happy to try to translate.
Thank you for this time. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't hear it around me. I'm here because several years ago, my family and I, we lost our house to predatory lenders. And some of the blame I want to fault my original mortgage bankers because they refused to give us a home equity line of credit. So we were forced to go to other places to get a loan. And what happened was they ended up giving us the money, paid off the first mortgage as a matter of fact, but then we ended up being going in over our heads because the interest rate was so high that we barely could keep up. And consequently, we were advised to get a lawyer, and the lawyer advised us to file for bankruptcy. So we did, and we really didn't get very good counseling from him, and we walked away from our house, and it wasn't until years later we found out we got terrible advice and that we didn't have to leave the house, and it just set us back financially so many years. Now my husband's suffering with cancer, and he was forced not to work until his full retirement age, so he's not getting full retirement. And we weren't able to sock away money to live on and have a decent retirement because of the situation we were in with our house. And so that's why I'm here. It's really hard to encapsulate the sadness and the anger and the pain in 2 minutes of what we've been through over the years. My son often says to me, Mom, when I say we're going to come here, I'm going to buy the house back. Sorry.
Is Caroline Jordan here? Is it Mary Lou Conca? Mary Lou from Shutesbury? No. Deborah Zanusky?
The last name on the list?
No. Rick Fleming? Followed by Louise Amiot.
Senators, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'd like to begin by thanking those members of the Senate and also the House that unanimously passed the Alimony Reform Act of 2011. I'm here tonight to speak about H740. H740 will return mass alimony laws back to its 2011 original intent, following the SJC reversals. H740 will reinstate the original legislation for people divorced before March of 2012. This bill will add no new alimony reform considerations and provisions. The law is clear. Alimony will terminate upon the payers reaching full retirement age. Alimony will terminate upon cohabitation. This intent must be reestablished through a corrective law overriding judicial overreach. Everyone deserves the right to retire or plan for retirement. I urge you to support H740. Thank you.
Louise, followed by Michael McKnight.
Good evening and thank you. I don't really have prepared statements. Everyone has said most of what
I agree with almost everything that was said tonight. A couple of things that have not been mentioned that I've been very painfully aware of is locally, I'm from Greenfield, and we've had problems with the way schools have been applying different standards of discipline for students, particularly with students of color. And I would like to request that the Senate look into ways in which faculties might be better integrated and disciplinary training might be mandated for all school administrators and faculties. Secondly, I would like to ask the Senate to do away with gerrymandering in Massachusetts. And I would like the state to work on doing away with Citizens United in Massachusetts. Thank you.
Michael, and after Michael will be Aaron Baker.
Sorry now for something completely different. I think my ears are bleeding from the echo chamber. Am I wrong? There hasn't been a divergent point of view in this place. And I don't think the Senate or any part of the government welcomes open dialogue. I think my senator knows that. I've tried to get discussions going. I agree with a lot of the goals that these people have. I think there are other ways to get there, but we're simply not going to be listened to. And I find it offensive. That's why I was angry. Tweet, by the way, come on. You don't answer tweets. There are a lot of other ideas out there. Rail. Has privatization even been discussed? Oh, that's right, you can't answer. It's a conversation which, again, I must have misunderstood. My concept of conversation was us talking in the same room, not here and Conway. I thought this morning the administrator from Charlemont made a very good point. The rules that you make to cover the state tie her hands so she can't serve her constituents in that town. She had a 2-page, right? Substitute the word business for town, and it's the same thing. The regulations on the marijuana laws, not the actual law. Every time you put a barrier there, you're screwing some local kid who wants to be an entrepreneur in this area. You make the barrier this high, Dope R Us is going to come in. They have a lawyer, a whole department. You're erecting barriers to the people that you're trying to help. I don't doubt your intent, but your methods are not. Thank you.
Aaron Baker, followed by Cliff McCarthy. Is Cliff here? Aaron? No Aaron? We have Cliff, followed by Dorothy. Dorothy, D-A-K-T-O-R, or D-O-K? D-O-K.
You guys have been asked to consider a huge number of really, really important issues: education, transportation, the environment, and the Safe Communities Act, which I hope Senator Lesser will support. I've got an issue which probably doesn't rise to that level, but I think I probably haven't considered it yet. I'm the president of the Pioneer Valley History Network, and we are a consortium of the historical societies and museums up and down the 3 counties of the Pioneer Valley. I'm here to tell you that in my position, I get to see the state of preservation of our history. And it's not good. We're facing a crisis because most of these small institutions don't have professional staff, they don't have money, they don't have resources, they're all volunteer. Unlike other states that have a state-sponsored historical society or a county-level historical society, here in Massachusetts, we are decentralized, and consequently we have our history in hundreds, literally hundreds, maybe 1,000 of institutions, small institutions, house museums, historical sites throughout the state. And most of them are staffed by volunteers. It's important. Our history is important, as you all, I'm sure, recognize. And the one of the antidotes to fake news and misinformation is having primary sources that you can rely upon. And so I ask you to work with the historical institutions in your district, such as Pioneer Valley History Network. Statewide, there is a new organization called the Mass History Alliance, which you'll be hearing more about. And I hope that you'll work with us to come up with a solution to this problem.
You're up, and then Tabitha Coughlin.
Hello, and thank you for being here to listen to these comments. I would like to discuss the Bill 740, which is the bill to restore the Alimony Reform Act of 2012 to its original intent, which happens to be a real threat to me as an older divorced woman in Massachusetts, especially in a long-term marriage. If you were married 20 years, yes, you are affected by this bill. My name is Dorothy Doctor. I am one of 3 women in the Commonwealth who took our case against the Alimony Reform Bill of 2012 to the Supreme Court in 2014. And I'm very happy to say that we won a unanimous decision of the Supreme Court. The major flaw in the bill is that it needs to grandfather the old agreements. These were agreements that followed the law of the time they were granted, and it's unfair now to change the law 25 years later and make my old separation agreement, parts of it, null and void. Just any part that the lawmaker happened to say, oh no, that's not right, we're not following that anymore. I would note that the Supreme Court decision did reflect the original intent of the Act, and it's fair and expected that you live up to all of your agreements that you signed with your spouse in the time of the divorce. The SJC, it did not legislate from the bench, but instead it clarified. The law should apply to all, and it's unconscionable that it doesn't grandfather the pre-existing pre-12 divorces agreements. Thank you very much.
Tabitha, are you here? Great. And then Lily Swartz.
Hi, I'm Tabitha, and I just moved to Leverett from New York, so I don't really know any of you or much of your history, but I'm super excited to be here in the Pioneer Valley. I actually started off, I went to college in Boston and thought I wanted to do what you guys do, and I had a professor tell me that I would probably be assassinated with my mouth. So he says, young lady, you should find another career path. But I just really want to say thank you, because you guys have a really hard job in easy times, and these are easy times, and everything is changing, and all the systems that we knew are crumbling. And one of the reasons I'm really excited to move back to the state of Massachusetts is this like pioneer, patriot spirit. And I think at a time where a lot of these old systems are crumbling, we can be that person, that state that people look to from all over the country to lead us into a new way of doing things. And I could go on and on and on. I didn't really prepare a statement, but I do work in the solar industry as one of my businesses. And we have some amazing things going on with community solar, and we're cut off at the knees because whenever we want to put a project in for low-income housing or a big community project, 40% of what we produce goes back to Eversource. And that limits our investors, that limits what we can do, that limits the jobs that we can create. And again, it's just, I would say for all of you, again, I really appreciate what you do every day, and to look at decision-making going forward from a place of like, how do we really make people's lives and the planet and everything else better versus the old school way of doing things. So, thank you.
Okay, so now we have Lily and then Diane Wiley.
Hi, my name is Lily Swartz, and I'm from Great Barrington. I want to talk about 2 different bills that I think are important to support healthy communities here in Massachusetts. The first is the Safe Communities Act, and I think you've probably already heard a lot about that tonight. So I'll just add that the Massachusetts
I was born and raised in and chose to live in is a state that stands with families and stands for our communities, not to divide friends and neighbors. And so it's time to take the lead on this issue. The second one that I want to talk about is the Prevention and Wellness Trust, which I know many of you are familiar with and already support, but just as someone who works in public health, I think this is a really important fund. It's the first in the nation on the statewide level that invests in bridging the gap between clinical care and the conditions that shape our health, so the actual physical communities that we live in. And one of the reasons that this matters is that you've heard a lot about the cost of our healthcare system, and there are some flaws with it. And while there are things that we can do to improve that system, beyond thinking about the ways that we improve treatment, we need to think about the ways that we invest in communities and keeping people healthy in the first place. So if you want to bring down that 40% of our budget, we have to start thinking about where we live and how that shapes our health. I think it actually also connects to climate change, which you've heard a lot about today also. Climate change is many kinds of issues, but at its core, I think also a public health issue. And that cost of our healthcare system in the state will continue to rise for many reasons, but because of climate change. So if you care about really a broad sense of issues, investing in the communities where we live and work and play, and especially the communities that are most vulnerable or have been disadvantaged and neglected, the Prevention and Wellness Trust will do that. But if you don't do anything, the fund will expire, and Massachusetts will lose our opportunity to continue to be a leader in this kind of work. So thank you.
After Diane is Will Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for hanging in there. I'm Diane Wiley from Amherst, Massachusetts, and I want to thank you for coming out west. I really appreciate it. I have a question. How many of you have seen the Academy-nominated film 13th? How many of you have heard of it? Okay. In your spare time, which I know is scarce, I strongly recommend you see it. It's about the 13th Amendment. And the topic that I want to underscore here that hasn't been spoken about much, but is much on the minds of many people out here and across the state, is criminal justice reform. I would have brought, you know that there's House bills and Senate bills, excuse me. There's 12 of them dealing with community policing training, changing mandatory minimum sentencing, CORI, releasing elderly, medically, terminally ill patients. There's at least 12 bills that I learned about when I drove to Arlington on Saturday to educate myself about this. What's important about this is that it also relates to racial justice and economic justice. So when we talk about, I'm very much a proponent of the Safe Communities initiative, but we also need to deal with our history as a country, and I love that Massachusetts is a model for the rest of the country. So what we do here on criminal justice can be a model, and we can also learn from our European counterparts that are doing this better than we are, both in terms of what's been talked about, education and single payer. But I really feel like criminal justice reform is way overdue, and I hope you will actively support the bills that are before you. Thank you.
Will Meyer, are you here? Next is Cliff McCarthy after Will. Cliff, are you here? You already spoke. We got you. And finally, Vicki Elson. Vicki, are you here?
Yes.
Would you like to speak?
At this moment?
Yes. You are up to bat. In fact, you're the last name on the list.
Okay, well, I'll drag this out as long as I possibly can.
Yes, the whole 2 minutes you have.
So I'm a volunteer with Represent.us, which is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working on campaign finance reform, anti-gerrymandering, and sorry, now I got nervous. And ranked choice voting, which would, I think, make it a lot easier for people who currently don't bother to vote because they don't like any of the choices to then participate in our democracy and to vote their conscience. So I will come and talk to you guys individually at some point at your offices. I just wanted to express my enthusiasm for new ways of electing people. I would love to liberate you from the need to do fundraising and give you more time to do the things that you do so very extremely well. So thank you for all your attention to all these really important issues tonight.
Well, thank you. So, here, what, I'm sorry? Oh, there's another hand up. You want to come forward?
I think there was the name that you couldn't pronounce, and when I signed up, I was at the top of the page.
Can you come on? We'd love to hear from you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Deborah Shanowski, and I'm from Chicopee, Mass. And I have just recently become more active. I'm 60 years old. It's a little late, but better late than never. And it's because of all that's going on in politics right now. As a mother and as a person who had a nurturing role all my life, I can't stand by and watch what's happening. So now I'm involved in multiple groups, and I think you all need to realize, I think we tend to think of state government as different from federal government, and it is, but we also tend to think that most of the problems that people are protesting are the bigger issues, and they're not, and there are people everywhere organizing. I who have never done things like that am actively in 3 different groups right now. The group that I'm speaking on behalf of or for today, we are in support of the Safe Communities Act. And I just want to make sure that you're all really considering this bill and thinking it through and making sure you're making the right decision for our communities. My grandparents were immigrants into this country, as are many of the people in my community, immigrants from various countries around the world. And to see the way immigrant communities are being looked upon by the country at large is just really not the America that I grew up believing in. And I think we need to set the bar high and to show in Massachusetts that we know how to treat immigrant communities and welcome them and not scare them. Thank you. And thank you for coming. We really appreciate being heard in Western Mass. It's so often everything is at the other end of the state that we really appreciate you coming and hope you come more and more. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've now completed the list. 2 quick things. While we've been here together, people have been participating in the online poll through some technology that's been going on here. And so we always announce what the top 2 were at the end. And the top 2 tonight were climate change and reliable, efficient transportation. Now, not that the rest of your issues were not duly noted. And so let me just take a moment to offer special thanks to my colleagues who now, in a very substantial number, have between a 2 and 2.5 hour drive home. So I want to thank you very much for spending the day here in Western Mass with us and for spending this evening here on the campus listening to the people of Western Massachusetts communities and counties. So thank you all for participating and thank you.